Hello YouTubers, today I'm going to talk to you about my Ruger SR9. Problem I was having with it, jamming pretty consistently. It's a fairly brand new gun, and just got it back from Ruger today as a matter of fact, and they seem to have repaired it, and I wanted to show you about that. So this is my SR9. There's no magazine in. Let's go ahead and safety check it to make sure there are no live rounds in here. As you can possibly see, no live rounds, just my fingers. Alright, so that's all good. I hate doing that. And I have a magazine here that has snap caps in it. These are little inert cartridges with a plastic tip, plastic on the inside. There's a couple different brands of these. These are okay. They're good for just sort of dry firing and learning how to eject cartridges from the gun without shooting yourself. Actually, the SR9 is kind of nice because you can actually put they recommend if you put an empty magazine in, only with an empty magazine in, you can do dry firing drills and it won't hurt the firing pin the way it will with other weapons, other manufacturers. So I'm going to go ahead and load the last of this. I have 5 of these. They come in a pack of 5. Kind of expensive, but you only buy them one time. So the problem I was having with this gun was pretty consistent, and I had the gun about 2 months, and I tried to fire about 800 or 900 rounds through it, and it was consistently jamming. And what was happening was the spent cartridge was stuck in there, and then the one behind it would get jammed and would press the spent one in there. Failure to eject is the terminology for it. This differs from the stove piping that you may hear about from others, in which is a situation where one will pop up like this and get stuck in there, and they call it the stove piping, either an empty one or a live one. But this was a failure to eject. This was clearly the spent shell didn't come out, and then the live round behind it was jammed at a funky angle, and because of that we couldn't drop. You can't drop the magazine, can't drop it and clear it. With a stovepipe you can just drop the magazine, rack it, and it usually clears it out. With this kind of failure to eject, you've got something really wedged in there and nothing's happening until we lock it back. Once we lock it all the way back manually, then I can eject, and then we have to deal with this spent shell in there and get it out by hand. Either bang it out, poke it out, somehow like that. Of course, this is when it's just been fired. It's hot, it's expanded, and it's a lot stiffer in there. It's really jammed in there pretty well. So, it wasn't that big of a deal at the range. I mean, it was a pain, and it was jamming about, at least every second magazine. At least one would jam, and sometimes I'd have 3 or 4 within a magazine that would jam. So it was, not fun at the range, but carrying this for defense or on duty, when the life depends upon it, you need it to fire every time, and not, and the jams have to be a real rare occurrence and not a regular occurrence. So we sent this back to Ruger, called them up first, explained the problem. They were very nice. It was probably only about a 5 or 10 minute phone call. They emailed me a UPS label. I boxed it up, shipped it off to them, and it came back to me today. It's about exactly 1 week from when I sent it. I know they say it's usually around a 2-week turnaround, or sometimes a little longer if they're busy. I guess I got lucky. Shipped it and got it back within a week. They replaced the ejector, there's a little pin in there, and the extractor as well. I thought maybe they were going to replace the whole upper, or the barrel was out of tolerance or something, but they just replaced those 2 things. I took it to the range today as soon as it came in, and I ran about 120 rounds through it of reloaded ammo that came from one of the biggest reloaders in Southern California. And like I said, I ran about 120 rounds through it, and it was absolutely flawless. I did it slow. I ran it as fast as I could. I ran 2 magazines, bang, 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 reload, bang, 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 right in a row, not a jam. I mean, it performed flawlessly. Interestingly, at the very same time, because the gun club I belong to has a lot of rental weapons, I also took out a Springfield XD9 because I was thinking, well, maybe if this one's going to give me problems or it's not going to be reliable, maybe I should look at an XD9. And I took the XD9 out, and I gotta say I like this a lot better. I like the XD9. The XD9 also feels about the same in the hand. This I shoot a little better with, which is important. Not a lot. The XD9 I shot very well with, better than I did with Smith & Wesson, better than I did with some other weapons that I've tried, and I haven't fired a lot of handguns, but just a few at this range. But I gotta say, this felt nice. This has a back strap you can change. I added a little bit here to make it just fit right in my hands, and got the sights adjusted the way I want them. Works really, really nice. The thing I did like about this, that some don't, you know, if you're a Glock enthusiast, you don't want a safety. They want a gun, you put the bullets in, you rack it, and it's live. Pull the trigger, you shoot somebody. And for me, safeties were important. Number one, I'm not a long-time gun owner, so that was just something I cared about. Number two, in carrying this weapon on duty for security work, there's always a chance someone could get it from me. I would like to make it as hard as I can for somebody else to turn it on me should they ever be able to get it away from me. God forbid they do. But so the fact that there's safeties we can deal with, and they might have to fumble with it, whereas if they got a Glock out of your hands, they can point it at you and shoot you, and you're dead. The other nice thing about the Ruger is that it has the mag release safety. So when you've actually racked a round in there, and we have a live round in there, which of course you can tell by the now blackened red. I shot off a lot of rounds today, so that got a little black. And also there should be a button back here that tells you that it's cocked. Not only do you have the safety here, but now you have a live round in there. If you were to drop the magazine, suppose you were struggling for the weapon and you were able to get the magazine out and the bad guy got the gun from you, you could pull the trigger and nothing's going to happen. Okay, it'll click, but nothing will happen, because without a magazine in there, no bullet will fire. So there's pros and cons to that, of course. If you lost your magazine and you got the gun and you turned it on the bad guy, well, it also wouldn't work for you as well. But all things considered, I'd rather have a weapon that gets into a fight and people struggling over it. I'd rather have one that becomes nothing more than a piece of metal and doesn't work for either of us than take a 50-50 chance that it works for me or the bad guy, whoever gets it. So in a struggle, drop the magazine. It doesn't matter if the guy gets the gun. I mean, he can hit you over the head with it and certainly kill you with that, but he can't shoot you with it unless you get the magazine. If you happen to get the gun back, chances are, if you're like me, you're carrying several magazines of ammo on your body, so that it's very easy then to replace it, rack it, and now we're live again. Again, we've just got snap caps in there, not real stuff. Okay, so that was my story of the Ruger and its jamming. I've seen videos where there's been some stovepiping, and I saw some other ones where there was a similar kind of jamming going on. So it appears to be, in this case, it's not the barrel, it's not the slider or the spring mechanism, whatever. It's the extractor and the ejector, and when they replace those, this thing is as smooth as silk. It has a very stiff, heavy trigger. Again, compared to the Springfield XD9, I mean, I called it the Smithfield before. I do that all the time. But the Springfield Armory XD9 has a really light, smooth trigger. It's fairly far back. It doesn't have a long pull. It's just you may either like that or don't like that. The Ruger, on the other hand, it's got a fairly stiff trigger. It can cause some jerking because you're pulling so far back, and that doesn't look like a lot, but when you're really shooting it and you really have to pull back on it, there's room for wiggle. So it takes a little getting used to, but I found I'm pretty accurate with this, more so than I am with most of the other guns. And the last thing about the XD9 that I didn't care for is related to this. And again, this has a true slider safety. Gotta get that round out. This has a true slider safety here. Red, you're dead. There. So I can keep this in my holster. If I need to draw it, it's very quick to release it, and I'm ready to go. Again, if the bad guy got it and got it away from me very fast, they may not be thinking that there's a safety here, because they may be used to firing a Glock or something like that. So it would give me a little bit of time to deal with the situation. The Springfield XD9, as you'll see in videos, has a safety on the back of the grip here under the tang. It has a little lever that presses up, so you have to press your hand against it, and that's the same as taking off the safety. It won't fire. If your hand was down here and you were trying to shoot it, it won't fire. So if you were in some situation and you had to shoot it like this, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with it. I did notice that when I had gloves on today, because it was kind of cold, and I went to shoot the XD9, it didn't quite engage that safety, particularly because I didn't have my hand all the way up under the tang here. Okay, it was down just a little bit, and that was just enough so that little lever didn't push in all the way, and click, click, and press, nothing happened until I got right up under it, gripped it really hard, and then I could shoot. But with the gloves that gave a little bit of bulk, they didn't really press, and I thought, well, that was kind of a no-go for me. Although I love the XD9, I think it's a great gun, the Glocks are great, M&Ps are great, I fired all those, and I like them, and to each his own. This for me was good, and I'm just happy now that the reliability here has come back with this gun. Obviously just had something came out of the factory wrong or something. They fixed it, no charge, came back in a week, and I'm very happy with this weapon, and anybody who has one would probably be happy with it as well. Let's clear everything out. See my next videos where I will talk about tearing it apart and cleaning it and some other things about it. Thanks for watching.